Hello and welcome back to Invincible Asia. I'm George Clark and this is another episode of Deep Impact, where this time I'm going to take a look at the issue from February 1994, an issue that I initially missed buying back then but found recently on eBay for the healthy price of £14. Yes, from £1.75 to £14. Life is fucking horrendous sometimes, but hey, the things we do for content, eh? Anyway, let's go Deep Impact. Don't forget folks, before we go any further, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, ring the bell and all that jibber jabber, and thank you very much for supporting Invincible Asia. Anyway, this month, Sly and Arnie grace the front cover in a standoff for the Impact Hero of the Year Awards. Although it's strange why they don't have Jackie Chan on there too, considering how they champion Hong Kong movies so much. Inside, we get a free Brandon Lee poster mag, and around the trim, we get the usual list of everyone that appears in the issue. Well, for the most part. These include Clint Eastwood, Cynthia Rothrock, Dolph Lundgren, Michel Qissi, Sylvester Stallone, Dennis Quaid, Chuck Norris, Kevin Costner, Michael Douglas, and Van Damme. Now, let's get stuck in. On page 2, we open with a regular ad seen in many issues of Impact, asking readers to subscribe and pick up some Impact binders for just $5.99 to keep them safe in. I'd be lucky if I saw £5 a month at that stage, but now I wouldn't think twice about getting them. Over on the other side, we have the contents and of course the Baywatch editorial, and this one certainly makes for an interesting read. I just got back from an extended sojourn in Hong Kong, our precious crown colony within which many of the Impact fans' favourite movies are made. I enjoy taking the opportunity to check out the varying fortunes of friends old and new, and casting an eye over the industry in general. Our man Jackie Chan was busier than ever. Last month's cover star was supervising the long and troubled production of Drunken Master 2 on the Golden Harvest backlot when I arrived in Hong Kong, but was soon up and away en route to Paris for a promotional junket. He was in Macau for a special charity race he sponsors at the Grand Prix there. The Macau event seemed to resemble the Roman Games this year, with 2 riders dying on the track and a third driver and his mechanic shot dead in a triad-related incident outside a hotel nightclub. True Brit Mark Houghton is as much in demand as ever. He spent 3 days in Guangzhou as a guest star in a Taiwanese movie before returning to the Shim Sha Tsui office shared by he and partner Eddie Maher's East West Film Company. They're currently prepping their first independent production. In the meantime, Mark is being pursued by Jackie to shoot further scenes for Drunken Master 2, while he has agreed to appear alongside Ready Eddie in Lu Chi Lang's forthcoming Drunken Master 3. To the surprise of many, including its star, Donnie Yen's Hero of Heroes was riding high at the Hong Kong box office. Donnie himself would be the first to admit that this film is far from his best, but it definitely struck a chord with the fickle Chinese film goers. Donnie now has his sights set on an international movie career, and if any of the current crop of Hong Kong stars has a chance of filling the gap left by Bruce Lee, then it is he. I visited the set of Michel Qissi latest thriller and was sad to find that my old friend is suffering from a recurring back injury exacerbated by a stunt that went wrong during the making of the story of Wing Chun in Beijing. Michelle, who now prefers to be known by her family name of Yo, is undoubtedly the bravest of the fighting femme fatales, but at a price. She was hospitalised a few days after we met, and I know all the Impact readers will join with me in wishing her a speedy recovery. Also sighted on the mean streets of Hong Kong was that beast from the east, Bolo Yeung. Apparently, this larger-than-life leading man has just signed a multi-picture deal with a Colombian film company. I attended a birthday party with the other Miss Khan, Cynthia, who looks to be in great shape. She had a fighting role in Sammo Hung's underrated Blade of Fury and is soon to play a non-action part in a forthcoming Yuen Biao Donnie Yen doubleheader, the working title of which is being held in high esteem in Hollywood following the success of films like Dragon, Hard Target and Demolition Man, all of which owe much to the Far Eastern industry. Well, we all know what that film was, and it certainly wasn't. Ironically, most critics agree that, quality-wise, the current Hong Kong movie scene is at a low ebb. The craze for traditional style wire and mini tramp kung fu fests is waning, and Hollywood East is searching for its next new direction. Both filmmakers and fans hope the biz will do better in '94, and you can rest assured that, whatever the future holds, you'll be reading about it here. Bay Logan, Editor. I have to say, it is interesting looking back at this kind of thing and how Bay puts things across, or what he thinks of certain films, and even how he writes. Anyway, moving on. So, the first big article of this month's issue is the Impact Hero of the Year Awards. The world's one and only action movie magazine checks out the best of the best and decides who did and didn't deliver the goods in '93. Well, this is going to be fun. So the article opens with a paragraph on how well action movies were doing throughout 1993, mentioning the likes of Jurassic Park, Dragon, Hard Target, Cliffhanger, Demolition Man, and even Last Action Hero. But over the page, we have the breakdown of all the stars who are in the run-up for this award, starting with Jackie Chan and Van Damme here, talking about their past projects, current projects, and future prospects, of course. Let's get stuck in. So, starting with Jackie Chan, we have his past form. Since he first exploded onto the Hong Kong movie scene with a brace of kung fu comedy hits, Snake in the Eagle's Shadow and Drunken Master, Wacky Jackie has remained the Far East's favourite action hero. Attempts to launch him in the West in vehicles such as Battle Creek Brawl and The Protector have so far proved unproductive, though he retains a vast cult following all over the world. Ironically, international audiences prefer to see him as an out-and-out action hero in films such as Armour of God, Wheels and Meals, and Crime Story, while his local crowds enjoy the slapstick comedy of Project A Part 2 and Operation Condor. Quite random. If he can reconcile the two, he may produce a hit that pleases both East and West. So the paragraph on his current form: after the slow production rate of previous years, during which he cranked out Miracles and Operation Condor at less than a snail's pace, Jesus, some people just aren't happy, Chan fans were delighted at the chance to view a whole new lineup of Jackie productions. Island of Fire, Police Story 3, City Hunter, and Crime Story all have much to recommend them. Sadly, only Island has received mainstream distribution in the UK. Jackie's talent is undeniable. The main thing standing between him and our Hero of the Year award is the sad fact that so few of his films get the international audience they deserve. What a lame excuse. To make matters worse, he's returned to his previous production pace for Drunken Master 2, a troubled epic that has taken him over 8 months to create. That's kind of the average Hollywood production scale there. Anyway, future prospects for Jackie Chan. After all this time, Drunken Master 2 better be good. Oh my god. Though advance word is not that hot. Well, that's a load of balls. Chan made this film for the Hong Kong Stuntmen's Association and appears to be as unhappy with it as he was with Twin Dragons, which he made for the Directors Guild. When Drunken Master 2 finally wraps, Jackie is set to make a film for the enterprising Wins Film Company. It'll be a period piece, and a main attraction for Chan is the fact that Wins seem to have tied up the mainland Chinese distribution market. Subsequently, Jackie promises or threatens an Armour of God 3. His longtime dream project, a kung fu western, is still a possibility, as are the chances of his making American films again. Apparently, he has a deal with a San Francisco-based company and has had an offer from Stallone. Golden Harvest, we hear, have been the main stumbling block in overseas negotiations. Below we have Van Damme, and his past form paragraph reads, early hits like Bloodsport and Kickboxer established Jean-Claude as the frontrunner among the new generation of action stars. However, fans soon started wondering when he was going to make films as good as these two again. Cyborg, Death Warrant, AWOL and Double Impact all furthered his reputation internationally, but none turned out to be the kind of runaway hit every rising action hero longs for. Universal Soldier looked like being his best shot at the big time, but even JCVD's staunchest fans agree that this Dolph Van doubleheader was something of a disappointment. Nowhere to Run was a missed-time attempt to join the mainstream, leaving audiences wondering why someone who can fight like Van Damme should choose not to do so. His current form paragraph reads, Hard Target proved what had been missing from earlier Van Damme films: a director. Helmers such as Sheldon Littich and Roland Emmerich may have much to recommend them, but none could claim to rival John Woo. The killer director crafted a superb balance of the balletic and ballistic, creating a film that allowed for both Jean-Claude's trademark footwork and John Woo's famous gunplay. The result was a film that even people who don't like Van Damme could admire. Hard Target was so good that it makes Van Damme a leading contender for Impact Hero of the Year. Future prospects? At the time of writing, Van the Man had just returned to LA after the Canadian shoot of the SF adventure Time Cop. Little info has been released concerning the project, but the involvement of Sam Raimi, who directed Army of Darkness and co-produced Hard Target, bodes well. Still in development is Jean-Claude's dream project, The Quest, which was announced amid much fanfare at this year's Cannes Festival. We figure that, providing he sticks to what he does best, the muscles from Brussels can't go wrong. Bit of favouritism there, if you ask me. Over the page, it continues with Sylvester Stallone. His past form paragraph reads, Stallone's Rocky became the underdog hero of a generation, and he more or less created the muscle man as hero genre that Arnie was later to capitalise on so well. Critics who thought Rocky and its sequels were all there was to Sly were silenced when he brought the all-American combat icon Rambo to the silver screen. His problem has always been that, given a free hand, he'll develop projects for which he is eminently not suited. Anyone see Rhinestone, Paradise Alley, Stop or My Mom Will Shoot? When he hits his marks though, nobody does it better, as was proved by the Rambo films, by Tango and Cash, and even by less well-received fare such as Cobra and Oscar. His current form? A comeback even the Italian stallion would be proud of. After it seemed that even Rocky V couldn't salvage Stallone's flagging career, he hit new heights with Cliffhanger. Die Hard 2 Helmer, Rennie Harlan, combined forces with Sly to make the second best action hero of the summer, a film that outgrossed Last Action Hero while costing much less. What was the best high-concept thriller of the year? Our vote goes to Demolition Man, an over-the-top rollercoaster ride of comic book proportions. Stallone was brave enough to boost Wesley Snipes to co-star billing and a villain role of Joker-esque proportions, and it paid off. Sly has never been better. Demolition Man works as an actioneer and also manages to be funnier than Oscar, Stop or Rhinestone put together. Jesus, what a fucking awful joke. Future prospects for Sly? Little is known about Stallone's just announced The Specialist, currently filming in Miami and LA, other than that he plays a government-trained assassin in the film. Le Homme Stallone or a remake of The Killer? Only time will tell. Next up for the hero from Hell's Kitchen, who seems to be on something of a roll, is Judge Dredd, to be shot, as befits a British superhero, in the UK. Fans will be interested to find out how the film differs from RoboCop and Demolition Man, both of which owed more than a little to Fleetway's 4-colour original. Big Arnie is just below and his past form reads, what can you say? After a few false starts, anyone out there see Cactus Jack? The Austrian oak planned and executed an action movie career with Germanic precision. Conan the Barbarian established him as the Steve Reeves of his generation, but it was his decision to play a bad guy in the cult sci-fi actioneer The Terminator that truly launched him as a multifaceted movie superhero. Hit after hit followed, with Commando, Twins and Total Recall being especially memorable successes. Most critics, including us, view his second collaboration with director Jim Cameron, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, as the best action movie ever made. His current form? What went wrong? Arnie's attempt to make a kinder, gentler actioneer for his massive audience should have worked. The concept of that young fan being magically transported into an Arnold movie was brilliant, but somehow the execution ran awry. Last Action Hero has its moments, but a soggy last quarter sank it at the summer box office. That and the stampede caused by Spielberg's spectacular Dino Fest. Future prospects for Arnie? Like the man he is, Arnold took the critical and commercial drubbing afforded Last Action Hero on the chin and jumped back into the fray, backed by longtime cohort Jim Cameron for the Americanization of the French thriller La Totale. Schwarzenegger plays a SWAT team leader with family problems. Don't be deceived. This isn't a high-concept edition of Oprah. Fuck's sake. Word is that the film will feature the kind of high-tech hijinks we've come to expect from Arnie and Jim. Next up for the big guy, who knows? Soft projects including Curious George and The Tooth Fairy have been touted, but we will foresee Arnold jumping back into a hard action here after last action hero's soft landing. Jesus Christ. On the other page, clearly the only other action star left at this period was Chuck Norris. His past form reads, after surviving 70s set turkeys like Slaughter in San Francisco, Norris managed to carve a niche for himself as America's favourite B-movie martial arts hero. Films like A Force of One and The Octagon established him as an action man in the tradition of John Wayne, but, as was to be the case with Van Damme, Norris had trouble matching their success in his subsequent vehicles. It was some years later that he turned out a triple bill of personal bests. Missing in Action remains his most profitable movie at the US box office, Code of Silence his most critically acclaimed film, and Hero and the Terror his finest performance to date. His current form? Another comeback that would do Rocky Balboa proud. This year saw Chuck score a US theatrical hit with the comedy martial arts actioneer Sidekicks, while his TV series Walker Texas Ranger returned from a hiatus to good reviews and great ratings. Don't judge the show by the pilot released here by WHV. Since then, Walker has improved beyond measure. Sidekicks, produced and part financed by a Texan mattress salesman, gave Chuck a terrific vehicle. Amid a cast of sterling thespians, Jonathan Brandis, Mako, Beau Bridges, and Joe Piscopo, Norris held his own simply by being himself and by returning to his roots to play a retired tournament competitor. Too bad Sidekicks didn't get a theatrical release on this side of the Atlantic. Future prospects for Chuck? It remains to be seen whether Norris can capitalise on the success of Sidekicks. His next theatrical feature, Hellbound, formerly Cold to the Touch, sounds like a remake of Hero and the Terror, which wasn't his best film. Maybe Chuck needs to lighten up in order to sustain a US theatrical audience. Upcoming for the Black Belt star is Ironheart, in which a Roman gladiator is thawed out of ice to do battle in the 20th century. I don't even know if I've even heard of that. I don't even know if it was made. Meanwhile, Walker goes from strength to strength. It remains to be seen whether the show will continue to air on video here or if it'll get a TV screening. Then we come to the winning paragraph. And so the winner is, after 2 knockout performances, Sylvester Stallone. Cliffhanger and Demolition Man brought the Italian stallion back with a vengeance, and we look forward to another action-packed year from Sly in 1994. There we go. My goodness, Jackie was robbed completely because he took a bit of time to make one of the greatest movies of his career. Just down the side, we have Missing in Action, the heroes that didn't make the grade in 93, naming the likes of Dolph Lundgren, Bruce Willis, Steven Seagal, Mel Gibson, and Cynthia Rothrock, the only lady to get a mention in this whole article. Moving on. Regular article, The Lightning Rod, follows with a few pages of news blurbs. I'll not read everything though, but I'm immediately drawn to Roddy Piper and Billy Blanks in the awesome action film Back in Action. I love this movie and I just wish that we had gotten more with both of these guys together. Piper and Blanks are back in action. Roddy, resort to kill Piper, and Billy, Talons of the Eagle Blanks, join forces for SGE's Back in Action. Former WWF wrestler Rowdy Roddy is carving out quite a career for himself as an action lead. Resort, reviewed elsewhere in this issue, has sold in every major territory and also marks a comeback for Street Fighter star Sonny Chiba, who received one hell of a plug in the Quentin Tarantino scripted True Romance. Blanks is busy as ever. Recent releases for the former American Karate Champion include Invincible and TC2000. This urban thriller is being distributed by James the Protector Glickenhaus's company. Below there's a bit on the Roger Corman produced futuristic martial arts thriller Dragonfire from 1993 and the possible fake reviews during its promotion. Corman unleashes Dragonfire. The famed B-movie maestro has yet another kickboxing quickie out on the market, starring no one anyone's ever heard of. The film boasts some slick artwork, however, and some rave reviews from a variety of film magazines. The trouble is, we don't seem to have ever read them or seen them. Movie Action Magazine, even Screen Impact Magazine. All news to us. That's hilarious. John Paul Savini from Donnie Yen's Tiger Cage 2, In the Line of Duty 4 and Cheetah on Fire gets a mention for Sword of Honor, which wasn't a terrible movie in my opinion. Salviti wields Sword of Honor. Recent Impact feature subject John Salviti faxed us to say that, as a result of the article, he's been getting letters from around the world asking him about the film biz and about his work in Hong Kong with Kung Fu movie great Donnie Yen. John just finished working on another PM Entertainment flick, Sword of Honor, which lands in Las Vegas. Another old friend of Impact, Sophia Crawford, starred alongside PM regular Stephen Vincent Lee. Salviti performed the final fight with Lee. John was last seen in the Imperial release, Sword of Honor. I mean, that doesn't even make sense. What a badly written article. Jesus Christ. Anyway, Apex. Love this movie. Classy UK vid distrib New Age have picked up the Green Communications SF actioneer Apex. This cyberpunk epic features an unknown cast, but some stunt and special effects sequences that will blow your mind. Look for a major release of the title via Columbia TriStar Home Video. It actually is a pretty good movie. I remember seeing it back then. Watched it a couple of times since. Definitely worth checking out. Over the page, the gorgeous and hugely underrated Mark Dacascos, who had only just really found a year or so before this, is the law of the land. Let's see why. Rising martial arts action star Mark Dacascos is flavour of the year at Imperial, despite the poor showing of his debut starring vehicle Only the Strong at the summer '93 US box office. The company top-lined him in their big-budget Double Dragon and have another project, Law of the Land, in development. With his combination of looks, muscles and moves, Dacascos is perhaps the only one of the current crop of action heroes potentially worthy of teen idol status. It remains to be seen which of his upcoming vehicles will truly launch him on the international scene. We actually never did see Law of the Land. After Double Dragon, we got Kickboxer 5, The Redemption, Deadly Past, and The Awesome Crying Freeman, but I don't ever remember this one. Just beside that though, we do have a pointless blurb on Lorraine Avedon. Impact met up with Leon Isaac Kennedy, star of the Penitentiary series, and Lorraine Avedon, star of the No Retreat, No Surrender films, when they travelled through London en route to Russia for some kind of pre-production press junket for the film The Last Spy. The film recently wrapped, though without the services of Mr. Avedon. No word on the reasons for his non-involvement, but the lethal Lorraine does put in an appearance in the new Jalal Murhi flick, Golden Phoenix, and in an episode of Baywatch entitled Kicks. And over the page, before IMDb trivia, there was Word Up in Impact magazine, a page of nonsensical nonsense that is pretty much just a shortened version of the lightning rod. Whoops, it seems nice guy Chuck Norris saw red when an American video company tried to squeeze a few more bucks out of the 70s turkey Slaughter in San Francisco. The distrib retitled the film Karate Cop and are alleged to have promoted it in a way that seemed to be a recent film in which Norris played the lead. In fact, Chuck was the villain of the ghastly piece. It certainly wasn't a ghastly piece. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and if you want to know why, pick up the Eureka Blu-ray release because it is absolutely well worth it. Below that, Time Cop looks set to give Jean-Claude Van Damme another chance to stretch the acting muscles he exercised in Nowhere to Run. In the flick, the Muscles from Brussels plays a time traveller who goes back to try and stop his marriage from going wrong and winds up at the middle of a scheme to change history. Mia, by the sword Sarah, plays the wife concerned. I mean, that's hardly a description to get any action fan excited about that movie. Just under Billy Blanks, it says, UK video distrib Columbia TriStar have an impressive lineup for martial arts action fans. Upcoming titles including Cynthia Rothrock's Rage and Honor, David Bradley's Blood Brothers, and the Imperial Chop Socky Showdown starring Billy Blanks. Below again, Karate Kid 4 is now entitled The Next Karate Kid. Pat Morita returns as Master Miyagi, with newcomer Hilary Swank playing his new female disciple. Well, I mean, we all know how that went. It wasn't a terrible movie, but it certainly wasn't as big as the others. Speaking of sequels, the follow-up to Three Ninja Kids, US title Three Ninjas, is called Three Ninjas Go to Japan, and it's set in, oh, you guessed! Oh, Jesus, that's so bad. Oh my god. In fact, Three Ninjas Go to Japan was renamed Three Ninjas Kick Back, and although it was the second film of the series, was actually the third of the films to be shot. Below that, the new Tong Po from Kickboxer 4, Kamel Krifa, tells us that he's planning to team up with Bolo for a movie, the working title of which is Dream Warrior. Well, that actually never happened. Up top, director Rob Cohen's follow-up to Dragon is another martial arts actioneer entitled Vanishing Sun. The production recently wrapped its Macau location shoot and stars, among others, China White lead Russell Wong. And right down on the bottom here, regarding the much publicised Crow lawsuit, word is that Linda Lee has settled out of court and accepted compensation for the allegedly neglected acts that led to the death of her son Brandon on the film's set. Very sad moment. Over the page, the wonderful Michael Douglas speaks to Impact about his intense and fantastic new thriller, Falling Down. I love that movie. I mean, without reading the whole thing, it's a fairly positive piece. Michael praises the script by Eb Rose Smith, saying how intelligently structured it is and that it's one of the best written scripts he had seen in a long time. So yeah, Falling Down with Michael Douglas. Check it out if you haven't already. I mean, it's only been 30 years. Over on page 14, there's a competition for rapid fire t-shirts and a book by Derek Medding, which is joined by an ad for the Awesome 50 fanzine and scientifically proven ways to attract girls and build muscles. Aha. Opposite, we have a great poster for the Sonny Chiba and Roddy Piper film Resort to Kill, with Meg Foster up top there, joining Piper again after starring with him in the brilliant They Live. Of course, this leads to a nice 2-page spread on the actual film, with some great shots of both late actors there. You know, now that I think about it, I don't believe that I've ever seen this, although there is a chance that I caught it in my younger days. Let me just start with this opening paragraph. Admit it. Ever since you saw True Romance, and if you didn't, shame on you, you've wondered about Sonny Chiba, the man Christian Slater's character refers as the world's greatest living actor. Fans with longer memories of the chop-sucky genre will remember a series of video releases that appeared in the UK during the 80s, films like The Street Fighter, The Street Fighter's Revenge, and Sister Street Fighter. There have been many Chinese action films released on tape in this country, but surprisingly few Japanese ones. These films starred Chiba Shinichi, aka Sonny Chiba, and they established him both here and in America as a cult martial arts hero. For Slater's character in True Romance, the ultimate test of true love was that his partner sit through a Sonny Chiba triple bill. Perhaps the modern day equivalent is that your intended watch Resort to Kill with you. The article goes on to describe what the movie is all about, but over here this paragraph talks about Piper and Chiba working together. Piper and Chiba are a good match. Roddy is a naturally admirable leading man, and his WWF street fighting style contrasts well with Chiba's more stylized samurai style. The chop-socky movie lives and dies on the charisma of its leading players and the skillful execution of its fight scenes. Resort to Kill has both these elements. The last paragraph is interesting though. Finally, a word about the remarkable Eric Salzgaber, who executive produced the pick. How many people are there in Hollywood who could be, at the same time, a producer, a screenwriter, a film sales executive, a senior black belt at Billy Blank's LA Dojo, a comic book writer, and a stuntman on Resort to Kill? Eric is all of the above, and we'll be featuring him in a forthcoming installment of our series, The Producers. Well, Bay obviously had a hard-on for Eric Salzgaber, although I do look forward to his piece in the next issue. On page 18 and 19, Impact gets us a double-page spread on the Clint Eastwood and Kevin Costner film, A Perfect World. Hardly an action epic that needs to be in an action movie magazine, mind you. Another 2 pages that could have went towards some Hong Kong productions, eh? Although it is a pretty good movie, I have to say. Over the page though, we do have Video Scene Extra, which focuses on 3 releases by Warner Home Video: The Assassin, Passenger 57 and Body Snatcher. Out of all of them, I think Passenger 57 is the better one in terms of action, but it's 3 movies I'm not really in a rush to return to, if I'm being honest. Page 22 gives us another competition, this time for the new Bruce Lee documentary Mandarin Master, with a random cartoon strip on Clint Eastwood just below. No idea what that was all about. And for those of you that missed the first advertisement on building your muscle, here's another claiming that martial artists have developed incredible power, speed and stamina, as well as muscular development. We have thousands of delighted users. Read what some of them have to say. Dear God, I wonder how many people actually fell for that. Opposite, we have a write-up on Viggo Mortensen's 1993 thriller. Now that was a great show from what I can remember. Po Ling Choi checks out a new movie on Japanese gangsters that leaves both the Yakuza and Black Rain standing. I doubt that 1994 will see a better produced B-movie than American Yakuza. As was the case with Reservoir Dogs, a previously unknown director gives a fresh spin to a familiar genre with the sheer style of his film's execution. Although by no means a big-budget Hollywood spectacular, American Yakuza is a class act at every level. From Richard Clabaugh's luminous photography to Sonny Baskin's extraordinary editing to David Williams's haunting score, the movie is a winner all the way, and by far the finest actioneer on offer at this year's Milan Film Festival. The action sequences are more realistic than they are stylized. These days, it's almost a relief to watch a gunplay scene that owes nothing to John Woo. My God, isn't that surprising? Even back in 1994 they were saying this kind of thing. As the title suggests, the film has a very American aesthetic and is a million miles removed from the Chambara movie so popular in Japan. Though condemned without trial to a video release in the UK, American Yakuza deserves to be seen on the big screen. Here's hoping some enterprising festival holder secures a print for a few select showings. For the centre spread, we have an article on the fantastic Hollywood Western, Tombstone, which I thoroughly enjoyed, I must admit. But first, let's take a look at this souvenir Brandon Lee poster mag. Now, of course, by this stage, poor Brandon had passed almost a year ago already. And this poster mag is more about his 1992 feature, Rapid Fire, which is odd considering this magazine release was 2 years later. AJ Stanton explains in this Rapid Fire editorial. 19 years after the making of Enter the Dragon, Bruce Lee's only son earned top billing in Rapid Fire. Unfortunately, most action films these days seem to follow a similar pattern, but Brandon tried to take the action of the East and cater to the expectations of a Western audience. This worked perfectly, in that Brandon succeeded in bringing out his own type of action, but the Western brief was covered so well that this, plus Brandon's screen presence, was the only thing which made the film better than the average drug smuggling and bent cop drama. As a tribute to this breakthrough in movie action, we present an in-depth guide to Rapid Fire, a who's who and what's what from the film, a fact file on Brandon Lee, and a poster thrown in for good measure. Hope you enjoy Impact's No Punches Pulled poster mag on Rapid Fire. Here, Ian Fryer delivers a nice write-up on the movie itself, highlighting both the good and bad things about Rapid Fire, while opposite we see a cast breakdown, and below that a piece on fight choreographer Jeff Imada, which I'm going to focus on. Martial arts stunt work in Rapid Fire created by Jeff Imada. Although Jeff worked on many theatrical films, his main talent was in stunt work and coordination in martial arts movies. Imada was born and raised in Inglewood, California, where he began studying martial arts at the age of 15 at Camino College and UCLA, where he majored in pre-med and minored in music. Whilst at college, he started working as a movie extra that led to him becoming a member of the Screen Actors Guild of America, Stunt Unlimited, and the Directors Guild of America. There are 5 major martial arts fight scenes which propel the principal action throughout Rapid Fire. The choreography of these martial arts scenes developed as a result of a collaboration between the director and writer, stunt coordinator Jeff Imada and Brandon Lee. Imada and Lee have been working together since they first became friends at the well-known Inosanto Academy of Martial Arts in Marina del Rey, California. Jeff was 15 years old and Brandon was 10 years old. On the subject of the martial arts success, Brandon Lee explains, "You consider what your opponent's fighting style may be. For example, it would not make sense for an Italian mafioso to be seen throwing jump-back spin kicks. But the FBI guys would have had hand-to-hand training, so we can justify having them drop into a cheesy, classical fighting stance. We can assume that the Asians in the laundry scene have had a certain amount of martial arts instruction." Jeff Imada likes to take time to note that we like to put in a few little gags that are different with a little more humour. One of these was a tribute to a famous scene shot by Brandon Lee's father, Bruce Lee. The scene was constructed, Imada explains, to keep Jake at the centre of the frame and bodies popping in and out with no real reference as to what was going on outside the frame. Jeff Imada worked very closely with Brandon Lee and loved him as a true friend. Sadness must have been in Imada's heart as he was working on The Crow, Brandon's final film when Lee Jr. was killed. On the back page we get a Brandon Lee fact file along with a list of his films and such. These include Legacy of Rage, Laser Mission, Showdown in Little Tokyo, Rapid Fire, The Crow, and some TV appearances as well as a piece on his martial arts career. And of course, when we open this thing up, we get a full-size poster of Brandon Lee in his training gear. Such a gorgeous man, very nice poster. Okay, back to Tombstone, and now that I think about it, what an odd place to put an article named as such with an attachment for a dead man. A very, very poor taste. Such a great film and a nicely laid out article though. Kurt Russell, Val Kilmer, Sam Elliott and Bill Paxton star in a slickly shot film about Wyatt Earp from the director of Rambo. Interestingly, Kevin Costner would go on to deliver his own version soon after this called Wyatt Earp, which was also fantastic, I have to say, and that was pretty much the same story. But you gotta love Hollywood, eh? They're very, very original. Not. Hollywood UK graces the next 2 pages, talking about the Hollywood-esque excitement behind British television shows from the late 50s through to the late 70s. A lot of these I do remember watching as reruns and enjoyed the most of them as a kid, to be honest. Crime fighters, spies, superheroes and ghosts. It was actually really exciting for its time. Shows like Danger Man, The Saint, The Champions, Man in a Suitcase, The Prisoner, S Department, Randall and Hopkirk Deceased, The Persuaders, Jason Keane and Return of the Saint. Great television shows that actually might be worth revisiting sometime soon. On page 28 and 29 we have the Impact Letters page with shots of Chuck Norris, Jackie Chan, Bolo Yeung and John Woo. Now that would have been a hell of a movie that I'd like to have seen in itself. Interferingly, the first letter seems to be from the Protector director himself, James Glickenhaus, thanking Bay for his interview and telling a quick story on Sam Peckinpah. Gareth from Warwickshire wants more coverage on Chuck Norris, and Fred from Derby has a few questions on Jackie Chan and where to get his movies. And I see here that Bay has actually listed the same guy I used to get mine from. Mark from Stranraer wonders what Bruce Lee's last words were to Bolo Yeung, what a strange request, and says how excited he is that Sho Kosugi is making a comeback in a new film called Renegade Blade. But I don't think that ever did come about, as far as I'm aware. And Raye delivers a lengthy piece on the time he met Quentin Tarantino and John Woo while attending a screening of Hardboiled, Once a Thief and Ringo Lam's Full Contact, Lucky Man, and later again with Woo on screenings of The Killer and Bullet in the Head. Ah, the 1990s when every major Hong Kong star came to the UK and I missed every damn one of them. Over the page, Kathleen Turner and Dennis Quaid star in Undercover Blues, a film I don't believe I have ever seen, but I have to say it does sound like a lot of fun. I'm glad they went for the title change though from Cloak and Diaper. I mean, it's a good pun, but yeah, Undercover Blues definitely suits it a lot better. Following that, on page 32 and 33, we get the second part of the Cynthia Rothrock interview where Bay, once again, uses the subtitle of Inside Cynthia Rothrock. Jesus Christ. There's a nice wee mix of pictures though, along with this great promo shop, including posters for Tiger Claws and Righting Wrongs. Let's read on. She's been on the scene so long that we think we know her so well. Impact caught up with the now red-headed raver in LA to talk her fucking red-headed raver, Jesus Christ, to talk it up and tell it like it really is. Last month we talked about her proposed erotic thriller Dark Red and about her misadventures making the film 24 Hours to Midnight. This month, it's the turn of the unscrupulous producers, Hollywood action movie makers, and her critics to feel the wrath of Rothrock. Dear God, here we go. Bay's about to stir some shit once again. Bay Logan, we were talking about 24 Hours to Midnight, and you told me that, though you didn't walk off the set then, you probably would now because you've been ripped off so many times. What kind of experiences have you had? Rothrock replies, people not paying me or else saying, we don't have the money now, we'll pay you later. You trust them and then... Bay interrupts, does that happen more in the Far East or here in the US? Rothrock says, more in the Far East. I haven't had any problems with American companies. I've had them say, do the director a favour, shoot 2 more weeks for nothing, and I've done that. You live and learn. You want to be treated fairly. What's the point of having a contract if it's not going to be followed? Bay continues, I noticed that, especially in Lady Dragon, your on-screen combat style is now much more kickboxing oriented. Do you ever foresee doing another full-blooded kung fu movie now that the genre has had a revival thanks to Once Upon a Time in China? Cindy answers, I think if I do, it would be with a Chinese company. I don't think an American company would do one. If I was asked to do one, I would. I'd love to do a kung fu movie. I'd even do a Chinese production again if it was going to be made that way. Here you have so many men and women doing martial arts films who really aren't that experienced in martial arts. Look at Total Recall. You have Sharon Stone fighting in that film and all you see is a leg coming into frame, and it might not even be hers. Look at Lethal Weapon 3. I think that stunt woman, Cheryl Dixon Wheeler, did most of the fighting in that. You can get by on a basic action film using someone who doesn't know martial arts. However, on a traditional martial arts movie, it's very hard. You have to find people who are good at that. Seeing as my speciality is all the weapons and traditional Chinese forms, I would love to do something like that. We did a little bit of it in Magic Crystal. Bay states, I thought Magic Crystal had some of your best kung fu fights of all time. It's just a shame the story was so bad. You know, I spend quite a bit of time in Hong Kong and I keep running into producers who tell me they have a contract with you for you to do another Chinese picture. As far as you're aware, do you have any outstanding contractual obligations there? Rothrock replies, no, I know I don't have any. The only company that I signed a contract with, and I can't remember the man's name, was for one picture, and the contract was for 1 year. They didn't do the film within that year, and the contract expired. It's really funny. I don't know why people say that. I just had a meeting this morning with an American company. I don't want to mention any names, and they had a contract with me. Sometimes a company will sign you up for 1 year, so you'll give them 1 year to do a film with you. The year goes, the contract's finished. That's what happened with this company, but they're still going around saying, yeah, we have Cynthia Rothrock for a film. I think I probably have more contracts with companies in this town than anyone else. What they'll do is they'll say to distributors, we have Cynthia Rothrock for a film, will you buy it? And then they come and ask me to do it. Bay continues, a lot of people have been critical of the fact that you have so many films in Indonesia and elsewhere in Southeast Asia. How do you respond to that? Cindy replies, the first film I did in Indonesia was Triple Cross. I wanted to experience filming in Indonesia. I'd never been there. I thought it would be quite an adventure. The picture turned out disastrously, but I went back to make Lady Dragon. And on that film, they had an American director. The script was much better, and later I did Angel of Fury with Rappy Films, which I find to be, to date, my best film. I don't care who puts the money up, so long as the script is good. These days I often get to choose who's going to be in the film and who'll direct it, and who the action choreographer is going to be. But an actor really has no say in how the movie's going to turn out. You never know. That's a risk you have to take. Over the last 2 years, I feel that, except for one film, they've been pretty good and are getting better. Next month, the final broadside from the once blonde bombshell. Be here for more Rothrockery. Jesus fucking Christ. Moving on. Following that, we have the first part of The Men That Are Tong Po, starting with the fearsome Michel Qissi. God, I hated this guy in Kickboxer. I mean, he was such a good villain and a nasty bastard as Tong Po that I really loved to hate him. Although I'm sure he's a pretty nice guy in real life. I believe he grew up with a young Van Damme, though, training together throughout the years, with both of them making their starts in the film industry with roles as extras in Breakin', that breakdance movie from 1984, which was friggin' awesome. I wouldn't mind seeing that again. Anyway, let's get stuck into the opening paragraph. High energy, high concept, and high pressure. Michel Qissi fires all cylinders as an actor, a director, and as a salesman. Our first encounter at last year's Milan Film Festival saw him doing a great job of trying to convince me to obtain the UK rights to his directorial debut, Backlash, which was being sold worldwide by New Image under the title, much to Michael's chagrin, of Terminator Woman. Certainly, had I had the resources, I'd have given in and bought the rights. and if I ever have a film on offer at international film marts, I want Qissi to sell it for me. As a filmmaker, Michael remains something of an unknown quantity. Backlash showed promise, but further Qissi-helmed projects have yet to materialise. Bay then asks how the role of Tong Po came about, as it was originally planned for Harold Diamond, the stick fighter from Rambo 3. Qissi explains how Van Damme kept pushing him into it, eventually paying for a makeup guy to create the bald head, the eyes, which made the producers then agree to let him star. The next few questions are interesting though, in revealing how much of a narcissistic shite Van Damme was back then. Bay asks, you came back with a film that's regarded as something of a classic in American chop-socky genre. However, when the film was released, you weren't given a credit. The billing read Tong Po as himself. How did you feel about that? Michael replies, I was very angry. I felt betrayed. I did all the work. I helped design the makeup and created the look of Tong Po, and then I never got the credit for it. Bay continues, I met Jean-Claude when he was en route for Thailand, and he told me that Tong Po was a real champion from Thailand, and I believed him. Michael replies, Jean-Claude told you that? Well, it was a big problem between us. He kept promising that he would give me a chance in one of his films. We had been friends for so long, and then, when Kickboxer came out, no one knew it was me. Bay then asks why he was unhappy with Kickboxer 2. Michael replies, there were other problems between us at that time. You see, I always felt that he should have done Bloodsport and Kickboxer, and then Bloodsport 2 and Kickboxer 2, like Stallone did with the Rocky and Rambo films. They would have been 4 big hits. Jean-Claude went another direction and did Cyborg and Death Warrant instead. In the meantime, people found out that I had been Tong Po. They couldn't believe it. I did a tour in France with all the makeup and everything, and I got standing ovations everywhere I went. It was obvious that a lot of people responded to the character. When I was offered Kickboxer 2, I thought it was a great opportunity for me to get the credit I didn't for the first film. Jean-Claude would have preferred, I think, for me to stay next to him in his shadow. Qissi goes on to compliment Sasha Mitchell, stating that he was very nice and first to offer help when Michael hurt his ankle. Bay asks, was it difficult filming such a long fight scene with a non-martial artist? Michael replies, yes, there was a lot of stuff that I wanted to do that I really couldn't do because of that. Sasha was very worried about getting hit. When he's attacking me, it's him. When I'm attacking him, he was doubled on the reactions by Benny Urquidez, who was his instructor. Given that, I thought Sasha worked hard. The film was pretty well received. Bay continues, yes, in England it made more money at the theatrical box office than the original, and I believe it did as well on video. I understand that director Albert Pune shot a lot of footage of Tong Po training in Thailand, and that this was cut from the finished film. Michael replies, how do you know that? Bay, you really know a lot. Yes, we shot a lot of stuff with Tong Po in this cavern fighting these guys. The lighting was beautiful. You know what Albert is like. Anyway, they cut it all, which was a shame. Bay continues, I heard that they were worried that if they showed the Emmanuel fight, people would be mad that Emmanuel got shot, and that if they showed the Thailand training sequences, the audiences would start rooting for Tong Po, and this would detract from Sasha's performance. Michael states, you may be right, I really don't know. Anyway, I spoke to Albert after the film was finished, and he told me that he really liked the character of Tong Po, and that he'd like to make another Kickboxer film, which would feature him prominently. Of course, that Albert Pune directed sequel would go on to be Kickboxer 4 The Aggressor, although Qissi wasn't Tong Po in that. In fact, it would be his friend Kamel Khalifa that took over the role. And while he didn't return for Kickboxer 3, Qissi starred in To the Death as a character extremely like Tong Po. I mean, you'd be forgiven if you thought it was connected. Anyway, as stated at the start of the interview, if you're looking to catch this film called Backlash, you can find it as Terminator Woman, also starring Karen Shepherd and Jerry Trimble. It's actually quite a good fun show. I really enjoyed it. Anyway, next month, in part 2 of The Men That Are Tong Po, Kamel Khalifa explains how he assumed the mantle of the Thai death machine for the forthcoming Kickboxer 4 The Aggressor. And just opposite here we have another full-page ad trying to sell the secrets of street self-defense against badly drawn goblin punks in DM boots. On page 38, UK talent unveils the need. Actor-producer John Carrigan goes it alone with your average sci-fi martial arts cop movie. Always love a good indie film, let's see what it's all about. There must be dozens of would-be action movie makers sitting around the UK waiting for a break. One of them, Impact correspondent John Carrigan, got fed up with waiting and decided to put his own project together. Granted, John did have at least one foot on the ladder to fame and fortune. A skilled martial artist, he has been a bodyguard to most of the cast members of the classic Trek and has performed his unique stunt shows at ST conventions near and far. He even made a guest appearance in an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. His UK TV appearances have included Chronicles to Narnia, The Bill, Hancock, Law Lords, and he performed in the British movie thriller Double X. Recently, he joined the regular cast of the hit BBC comedy show British Empire. A skilled martial artist, John is an associate instructor for the IMB Academy in LA, which specialises in the Jeet Kune Do concepts devised by Bruce Lee, and the British producers promised to allow Carrigan some action scenes in the next season of their show. The film, shot on locations throughout the South, features gunplay, special effects, and, as you might expect, some martial arts style action, all of which is remarkable when you consider that the film's entire budget was a mere £3,960. Having completed The Need, John plans to use the film as a vehicle to show off the talents of himself and the rest of the cast. The eventual aim is to convince a theatrical or TV producer to finance a remake of The Need as a film or miniseries. As ever, Impact applauds and supports this kind of initiative and those who don't just talk, but do. Over on China Beat, an interesting collection of shots and news, but some shitty bloody reporting, such as this 7 in the title piece. I mean, my god, wait till you hear this. Although her recent police story spin-off, Operation S, missed the target at the Hong Kong box office, La Belle Michelle is back at work on another modern-day actioneer. She plays a villainess in a high-octane hostage drama helmed by Ching Su-tung. No English name yet, but we're told that there's a 7 in the title. Well, obviously now we know that the film in question was Wonder 7, but would you even bother talking about it if you didn't even know what the movie was called? So stupid. And then this down here, Union of Sadness. Chow Yun-fat and Jackie Chan were pallbearers at the funeral of a famous Hong Kong actress, a rare photo of the two Chinese superstars. Again, what is the point? It's hardly news or of interest when you can't complete the picture. Who was the actress? Answers on a postcard please, or in the comments at the very least. Above that, Drunken Master 3 gets a name drop. Before the wine has finished flowing on Jackie Chan's Drunken Master 2, departed director Lu Chi-lang is leaping into production of his Drunken Master 3. Chan's response? A closed set so Lu can't steal his ideas. An innovator the Clown Dragon may be, but we think the Pops could teach him a thing or two when it comes to real Kung Fu. I don't know now. I mean, if you put Drunken Master 2 and Drunken Master 3 side by side, we all know what's going to come out on top there. The hugely underrated yet brilliant White Lotus Cult gets a mention too. Wires and Wushu are to the fore in White Lotus Cult, yet another Kung Fu fest to come at the tail end of the Once Upon a Time tidal wave. Hero of Heroes, released at the same time, posted fair box office results, but surely the end of this dynasty is in sight. Well, no, it absolutely wasn't. And speaking of hero among heroes, we have a gorgeous looking young Donnie in a promo shot, and I know it was a promo shot because one of them against the blue was used for the UK VHS release of Tiger Cage 2 before this. Beggars can't be choosers. He spelled beggars wrong, it should be ARS, but I guess, as the title states, beggars can't be choosers. Donnie Yen is the hero of heroes. Quite why So Hak Yi, aka Beggar So, aka the Iron Beggar, aka Hero of Heroes, has done so well at the Hong Kong box office remains a mystery. Coming at the tail end of the Wushu wave that followed the success of Once Upon a Time in China, the film is a fairly weak tale of the adventures of the currently ubiquitous Chinese folk hero Wong Fei Hung and his fellow Kung Fu legend Beggar So. A mismatched mix of martial arts mayhem and mirthful merriment is barely salvaged by a blistering last reel duel between Yan Shitan and once 3 super kicker Hung Yan Yan. Nevertheless, it's been the big hit of the season, aided no doubt by a PR campaign which, unlike that of the rather less successful Iron Monkey, featured Donnie prominently. Hero of Heroes had many of the necessary ingredients to make it a classical kung fu flick. Several top-notch martial arts stars, tried and true genre heroes, and a reasonable budget. What spoiled the mix was the producer's insistence with regard to adding jarring comedic notes, including a karaoke-style sing-along. Yen filmed most of his own fight scenes, which explains why the action level raises a notch when he enters the fray. No word yet on a possible UK Chinatown theatrical release. This may be one Hong Kong kung fu flick that's better on video, with fast forward available at the press of a button. I don't know, I think that's a wee bit rough. I enjoyed Hero Among Heroes. Definitely not the best movie of the bunch, but still a lot of fun. Now turning the page to number 40 and 41, and as with every other issue of Impact, I was expecting a big write-up on the latest Hong Kong epic right after China Beat, but alas, we get 4 short bits, which still makes for an interesting read, especially down here where we get to see the great Vincent Zhao, aka Xiao Wenxiao, aka Chu Man Shuk, as Wong Fei Hung, yet he's not mentioned by name once in the whole article, and I thought Bei was on the ball. The man had already made a great debut in Feng Sai Yuk, impressed as Wong Fei Hung in Once Upon a Time in China 4, and in Choi Hark's wonderful Green Snake. Please beware, more shit attempts at humour will follow in this short piece. Despite the muted reception afforded Once Upon a Time in China 4, in which Jet Li was replaced as Wong Fei Hung by his Feng Sai Yuk foe, Once 5, 3-ish, 4-ish, 5th-ish, upon a I Give Up, Hick, Roy, is currently in production. The director promises less wire work and more on-the-ground action. Fans of Once 1 will be happy to hear that Ken Cheng returns as the magnificent butcher himself, Lam Sai Wing. Above that, the legendary Sammo Hung's hugely entertaining Blade of Fury is under attack. Film of Fury, Sammo's blade spares none. It's evidence of the sad state of affairs currently afflicting the Hong Kong industry that martial arts movie maestro Sammo Hung remains a prophet without honour in his own country, although his latest offering, Blade of Fury, performed with honour, but little profit in his native territory. The film is similar in style to Hung's earlier Kung Fu Fest films like Broken Oath and Shaolin Plot. Here though, the local stars are forced to take a back seat to the now obligatory Wushu players occupying the leads. Their physical dexterity may be dazzling, but these mainlanders have the facial expressiveness of ballerinas. Hong Kong performers such as Cynthia Khan and Rosamund Kwan outcharm them, while the still formidable screen presence of Shaw Brothers veteran Ti Lung blows them away. The plot, like the leads, is unengaging. Maybe Chinese viewers find more to appreciate in all this on-screen political manoeuvring than their Western counterparts. Then again, given the dismal Hong Kong box office reception, maybe not. Sammo himself turns in a quirky cameo as a Kung Fu Gallower, but his presence is felt more keenly in direction to the piece. The only English language word in the end credits is Dollymen, and you can see why. Hung's camera work remains as innovative as the glory days of Prodigal Son. The fight choreography is almost spectacular and offers further evidence that real-life kung fu skills will always please the eye more than the endless wire shots. Hopefully the wider Western audience will get to see the Beijing-bound Blade of Fury, which has much to offer as a visual spectacle, though unlike earlier masterworks from the maestro, little to appeal to the softer side of the psyche. A gorgeous shot of Jet Li graces the opposite side for Tai Chi Master with a short blurb on the film that calls Michelle by her name of Yo, yet in further issues I still remember Bei using Can quite often. Director Yuen Wu-ping is busier than ever. His Tai Chi Master just played in Hong Kong starring Jet Li and Michelle Yeoh. It's already played here on the Chinatown circuit. Next up from him will be the story of Wing Chun with the aforementioned Michelle as Yim Wing Chun and the aforementioned Donnie as her husband. And finally, just below, the wonderful Chow Yun-fat and a blurb on his new film, Treasure Hunt, from director Jeff Lau, which I quite enjoyed if I'm to be honest. But first of all, a totally irrelevant picture of Bei Logan with an incredibly gorgeous Michael Wong. Super handsome Hong Kong actor Michael Wong, last seen as Jackie Chan's ill-fated partner in City Hunter, plays Chow Yun-fat's fellow CIA agent in the Don's latest flick. Filming in LA was suspended when various key sets were burnt down during the riots. Now though, the American section of the shoot is over and the company has moved to Beijing for the next stage of the making of this espionage thriller. Michael, meanwhile, has been filming a SWAT team-style movie in Hong Kong. Of course, that SWAT-style movie was the brilliant final option from director Gordon Chan. Let's move on. The video scene section offers a mix of VHS titles on release, such as The Fantastic Falling Down, which we covered, Bruce Campbell's Adventures of Briscoe County Jr., the pilot for his TV show, which I really want to get my hands on. Apparently it's pretty damn good. In fact, it states here that the original script for Big Trouble in Little China was set in the Old West. Not a lot of people know that, but it's a true story. Below that is a piece on Don the Dragon Wilson's Rage, Ring of Fire 2. Let's have a look at that. Don Wilson goes underground for Ring of Fire 2. The main problem I have with Don Wilson's sequel to his PM Entertainment hit Ring of Fire is the lighting. There isn't any. Unlike the first film, which was located in and around LA's sunny Venice Beach, Rage, Ring of Fire 2 is set in a strange underworld far beneath the City of Angels. It's pretty much gloom and doom throughout. The all-important fight choreography is, for a Don Wilson movie, not too bad, but you can barely see it. You'll find yourself heaving a sigh of relief when the movie finally hits the open air in the final reel. The other jarring aspect to the production is the fact that most of the Ring of Fire actors return as the same characters, but the relationships are totally different. For example, didn't Dale Jacoby's character, Brad, kill Wilson's screen brother, Stephen Vincent Lee, in the first film? Here, they're the best of friends. If memory serves, weren't the Chinese gang members, including Ron Yuen and Eric Lee, sworn enemies of all-American boy Dale Jacoby? This time, they're on the same team. Truly, time heals all wounds. Considering his lack of looks, physique, or impressive martial arts moves, Ian Jacklin is remarkably busy in the chop-sucky field, and here, backed up by karate cop bad guy Evan Lurie, is cast as a villain of Mad Maxian proportions. Female heavy Liliana de Lumpines might be impressive if she were not so obviously a steroid casualty. Oh, Jesus Christ. In another contradiction of logic, she turns up alongside Eric Lee in the finale, having beaten him up one reel earlier. Ring of Fire 2 makes only passing reference to its predecessor in that there's a death ring in the underworld. The producers have instead taken their inspiration from Walter Hill's The Warriors and Van Damme's AWOL. Wilson and his friends have to battle their way through different underground gang turfs, and Don is accompanied by a crippled black mentor. Don Wilson is his usual self, with pipsqueak voice, indifferent physique, and ho-hum martial artistry, and Rage is no better or worse than his other films. I love it! Futuristic action drama Bloodstream starring Cuba Gooding Jr. follows, a film I have never seen, and below that, To Be the Best, another fecking kickboxing film, another product of its time. Ugh! This one though stars a young and very handsome Michael Worth, along with fan favourite Martin Kove, Ron Yuan and Stephen Vincent Lee from Sword of Honor. The write-up closes with, To Be the Best may not be the finest film in its genre, but we've endured far worse. And oddly, the issue finishes with a 3-page write-up on A Man with Vision, an interview with producer Mark Damon, the chief of distribution company Vision International. Not a 3-page piece on the latest Hong Kong or Hollywood action blockbuster that the fans of such a magazine would enjoy, but hey, let's see what it's all about. Though not a Superman himself, Mark Damon, like a high-concept version of 007's M, has sent many of the world's foremost action stars on some of their most memorable movie missions. His Vision International sent that violent Viking Dolph into battle against the Dark Angel, out into the Badlands of Joshua Tree, and on the trail of Val Kilmer's Johnny Mnemonic, while twinning Hong Kong with LA to allow Van Damme to duel with Van Damme in Double Impact, and sending the muscles from Brussels on the adventure of a lifetime in The Quest. Further down the Lethal Weapon League, Damon unleashed Bolo Yeung as the Shoot Fighter and Lorenzo Lamas as Viper. He's one busy fella, which might be why he kept us waiting for over an hour during the final day of the 1993 Mayfed Festival. It was worth the wait, with one of the movers and shakers of the high-impact industry taking us behind the scenes. Interesting introduction there. So the first question involves the Van Damme self-directed film, The Quest, that would eventually get its release 2 years after this, believe it or not. Now, Damon goes on to speak quite highly on the star, stating how he has worked with him for many years, how good he is at directing his cast, that he has a great visual sense and is definitely one of the smartest guys he knows. Then they soon tap on Lorenzo Lamas, with Impact saying that he is overexposed. Strange why they don't have a shot of the star right here, yet 3 of Dolph and barely a mention of him on this page. Damon states that Lamas has a lot of untapped potential as an action star, highlighting their production of Viper as one of his better productions. Impact then asks about Shoot Fighter. You produced a film entitled Shoot Fighter starring Bolo Yeung, who is something of a phenomenon in that he's virtually unheard of in his native territory, Hong Kong, and yet has acquired a cult following around the world based on his work in Enter the Dragon, Bloodsport and so on, despite the fact that he speaks hardly any English. How did Shoot Fighter come about? Mark replies, "We knew about Bolo's following. A number of the films he has done have done very well on video cassette. Most people remember him as the heavy in the films you mention and a myriad of other features. We realised that there was a familiarity with his name and face. We thought putting him in a picture with a new title and so on might start to build Bolo. His handicap, you're right, is that he doesn't speak English, so he has to sort of mouth the lines. He is learning English now, I believe, and I'd be happy to use him again. I think he's real good." Impact continues, "Now, one synopsis and set of stills was released from Shoot Fighter, and then, when the film itself appeared, these didn't really marry up with the finished product. Can you explain that?" Mark answers while laughing to himself, "Yes, it's absolutely true. We had a rather inexperienced director, at least in terms of action, Robert Ginty, who both started and finished the picture. Although he was fairly good with his actors and acting scenes, it was the action that didn't come off well. After we edited Shoot Fighter together, we realised that we maybe had 65 minutes of good, usable stuff, and we really needed a lot more action. We rewrote the script, brought on another director, doubled the budget, unfortunately, but the film came out fairly well and has in fact been doing good video figures all over the world." Impact asks, "Will there be a Shoot Fighter 2? Mark replies, "We're considering it." Over the page, we immediately get a shot of Lorenzo Lamas, but all the questions about Dolph Lundgren. Clearly the designer and editor at the time weren't too worried about putting the right pictures with the correct text. Impact goes on to ask, "The most intriguing movie title I've seen in recent times has been Johnny Mnemonic, which is to star Val Kilmer. Can you tell us a little bit about the film?" Mark replies, "Yes, it was written by William Gibson, who has quite a following for his cyberpunk novels. It's futuristic. It takes place about 120 years from now. It deals with a world that's trying to overcome drugs and everything else." Sounds like today, really. Johnny is a guy who comes in with a little electrode in his brain. Material has been downloaded into this, and he's carrying around information that could doom or save the world. As a result, everybody is after his head, literally. That's the basis, but it's going to be very stylized. It's a picture that is so interestingly weird that it reminds me in many ways of Blade Runner. So yes, Val Kilmer was originally set to star in Johnny Mnemonic, but left to play Batman in Batman Forever. I believe Christopher Lambert was considered for the role, but ultimately, as we now know, Keanu Reeves ended up as the leading man. They then talk about Dolph Lundgren's Dark Angel, which is a fantastic film, agreeing that it did bigger numbers on video than it did on the big screen, but also about the title change. Impact asks, "What was the thinking behind the title change? I think the US title, I Come in Peace, was much weaker than the UK one, Dark Angel." Mark replies, "I was never very happy with the American title. Unfortunately, there was a picture made in 1929 called Dark Angel, and we could never get a waiver on it. That was why. It prevented us from releasing it in the US theatrically under the original title." And finally, this last question was quite interesting. Impact says, "As a producer, do you find any greater difficulties or complications in putting these films together as opposed to those from any other genre?" Mark replies, "There are no greater complications. You just have to make sure you have some of the best choreographers and stunt people and some of the best martial arts stars and supporting actors that you can. Also, you need to find something different to do. People continue to buy martial arts and action pictures, but unless you find something a little different to give them, they won't stay interested for long. You have to find a new angle, and maybe that's the tough part. Interesting interview. Okay, so on the opposite page, we get a breakdown of what's coming in the next issue, with Hulk Hogan leading the way with Thunder in Paradise, a piece on Cyborg 3, Surf Ninjas, and a guy called Eric Salzgaber, which will no doubt be the closing 3-paged interview of that issue. And on the back cover, we get a full-page ad for Brandon Lee's Rapid Fire. Anyway, I'm George Clark, and this has been Deep Impact. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you for all your continued support. I hope you enjoyed going through this issue of February 1994 with me. Until next time, enjoy your Kung Fu. I'll see you next month for the next issue.
So thank you once again for watching another video here on Invincible Asia. Don't forget you can check out hundreds of others here on the channel. You can also show your continued support by heading over to my new merch store or by checking out invincibleasia.com, where you can read my full movie reviews and follow me on Instagram at InvincibleAsia. Until next time though, enjoy your Kung Fu and I will see you soon.